Limpopo in the area of Giyani. Zola Sholwana is our reporter there. Zola, tell us what's happening there right now.
Hopefully, from the visuals that you are seeing, these are community members who are quite relieved and excited to see the president. There is the president next to the premier of Limpopo in a backyard. Of course, he is here to, observe and see the damage that has been caused by floods that we understand have led to people's homes being washed away, and also a 5-year-old girl who is currently missing. We know that emergency personnel are on the ground, of course, assisting in that search. And many of these residents, really, what they want to hear is what is going to happen, moving forward, as many of them were complaining that they feel like the president, or authorities rather, were not assisting them the way they would have wanted to be assisted, because many of these people that you are seeing here do not have shelter. They don't know where they will be hiding their heads. This evening there is the president approaching, and we are hoping that he will also get to, perhaps speak to the media about the purpose of his visit at this particular moment. But more than anything, we know that there's going to be a walkabout that will be taking place currently, where he actually gets to see, the damage and the extent of the damage of the floods that have affected several parts of the Limpopo province. I'm also going to try and see if we can maybe perhaps grab a few residents while the president is doing a walkabout, and find out, what are they hoping to hear from the president, and are they confident that his visit will yield positive results. Let me actually get to speak to one of the ladies that lost her house. Sisi, thank you very much for your time. The president is here. Are you convinced there's going to be change after Mayamu?
President va kwala kha va vona na ku pfumela ku pfumela ku sweswi va nga fika va ta hi pfuna ka xiyimo lexi hi nga hlangana xo xa ku vava, tanihiloko hi ta va hi hlangana na disaster laha mugangeni wa hina. Hi ku sweswi hi pfumela tiyindlu, a hi na timpahla, a hi na nchumu, hambi ku ri swakudya swinene a hi na nchumu yo ti hanyela namuntlha swi ri ngaxi, a hi le ku pfunekeni nchumu. Kumbexana leswi president va nga fika swin'wana swi ta cinca.
Do you have a place to sleep tonight? Wa tseba gore tlo robala kae?
A na ndhawu ya ku tlela namuntlha, mara va hleketa ku ta hi kombela tikerekeni hi tlela koho ku kota ku va hi va safe na vana.
Thank you very much for your time. I'm going to approach, make my way to where the president is, and perhaps also get to listen into the briefing that's currently taking place. We know that he's listening to disaster management teams briefing him about what has happened, the extent of the damage, as we know that they have put together reports of the damage that has been caused by these floods.
While you do that, and I hope you can still hear me, there are some troubling statistics that are being bandied about in other media platforms, suggesting that a number of about 19 people may have lost their lives. Earlier, you made reference to a body or a child that is being searched for, and you were talking about a chopper that is circling above. Tell us what you know thus far.
Well, Xoli, there is a chopper that is currently assisting in the search, and that is, of course, EMS. And this is something that residents here were complaining about, to say that they actually reported that a child has been missing since morning, and they haven't been seeing any rescue teams that are on the ground to ensure that the child is found or the body is recovered if the child is no more at this particular moment. So we are also going to get confirmation of numbers, from the Premier, as well as we do understand that, her and her team have been, meeting in terms of combining, reports that come from different district municipalities in the Limpopo province, so that we can understand how the picture is looking like from their point of view. And are they ready on the ground? Is disaster management on high alert? Are they ready? And do they have resources in terms of tackling these kind of disasters here in the Limpopo province?
All right, Zola, and also just the floods themselves, the manner in which it would seem the amount of water that has landed here, surprising a number of people, and I'm making reference now to what residents in Mpumalanga have been talking about, people saying they've never seen the levels of water that they have seen in the past few days since they were born, some of them. What has been the sentiment in Giyani?
Well, that's what we are going to find out, Xoli. But when we spoke to the MEC of Cocta earlier on, he did mention that this is something that they have never seen. The last time they experienced a disaster of this magnitude was in the year 2002. And of course, this is something that they haven't experienced. In fact, it looks like we're about to, speak to the president or get a word from him right now, Xoli.
Okay, guys, the President will just give a brief summation of his visit. Because of time, we won't be able to be too long. We'll take only 2 questions. We have to leave because of the weather, Mr. President.
Yeah, we've just seen the catastrophic damage that has been caused here. We started off in the Vembe district, where we saw how a number of houses were flooded and how people have lost their possessions with the huge rains that have been raining in this part of our country. And now here in the Mopane district, it's even much worse, because right here where we are, there are 36 houses that have just been wiped away from the face of the earth. Everything is gone. The roofs, the walls, the furniture, and one 5-year-old child has also passed away. This saddens us because a loss of life is always something that is really devastating and should be devastating to all of us. Notwithstanding all that, I'm pleased to know that the community, as well as our municipality and our provincial government, have been doing everything they can to assist the people who've been affected by these floods. The rains have been pouring down. They tell me that more than 400 millimeters of rain has come down in just a short space of time since Sunday. So this is a devastation that we had never expected. And of course, in the Vembe area, some of the people are very close to the river, but here the river has broken its banks completely and went way beyond what you would normally have thought is the general flow of the river. So 36 houses gone, and it's affected 85 households. And those people were initially taken into a school, but they've now all been farmed or taken into relatives' homes. And we are grateful for that, because the solidarity and the cooperation that we have seen amongst our people here is quite amazing. We've also heard how one person was thoughtful enough and threw a rope to people who were stranded, and they tied each other around the rope and they pulled each other out of what could have been certain death. So we are really grateful that that type of innovation, even in a time of great danger, was possible, and it happened. So number of lives that could have been lost here have been saved. And we're grateful to ordinary people, and we've got one of our traditional leaders here, Undabezita, also needed to be saved, and we're glad that he and his family have been saved. And he says it was the effort largely of community members, and of course, our South African Air Force that came out, their helicopters, and rescued a number of people from rooftops and from trees. So that pleases us, because it shows that our response to disaster is getting better and better, both at the institution level like the South African Air Force, Defense Force, and also at local government level, our councillors are on the ground, and of course, our various other political organizations are on the ground and mobilizing people. The ANC has been on the ground and mobilizing many of its leaders and members to assist those who are in need. And provincial government, the Premier here leading the MECs, has also come out in a very strong way. So much as disaster befalls us with climate change, with rains that are now devastating because of the floods, we've been able to find a response. And of course, we need to do a little bit more in terms of the way we construct our roads so that water can flow a lot easier, because this is a flat area and it therefore requires our roads to allow water to flow. And it's going to require quite a bit of engineering. This time around, I think we will need to look at engineering solutions so that when there are devastating floods like this, we should be able to cope. But the saddest part is the 36 houses that have been wiped away. There's not a single house that I see here. There were houses, and even the foundations are gone. Everything is gone. So this is a real catastrophe. But our people will be taken care of. They've been, the records, the details of every household and every person are now being gathered, and we will be making sure that they are taken care of. Even as some of them have gone to their relatives' homes, government is going to help them to rebuild their lives. Thank you.
Thank you, President.
Thank you.
We'll take two questions, colleagues, because of time. Moloko and SABC. Moloko.
Thank you, Mr. President. Moloko Mloto from ENCA. You just announced that the 5-year-old unfortunately has perished, who was missing. But what do you make of, I don't know, have you been briefed about the situation, given the fact that the disaster did not only hit this area, in other parts of the province? But a quick and final question relates to the allegations made by the former minister in your cabinet, Mr. Dion George, who says that one of your ministers, John Steenhuisen, is essentially captured by criminal elements. He said this when he announced his resignation.
We are here. We are mourning. We are mourning here. Now, and the community is here. These community people are very saddened, and they want to hear what we are going to do to help them. So let's focus on the disaster that has happened here. Please, let's do that.
President Cyril Ramaphosa from SABC News. When can we anticipate some form of a report that will be able to tell us really about the extent of the damage, including some of the financial implications? We've seen bridges being literally washed off in vast parts of this territory.
Well, the Premier, as I arrived, the Premier was telling me that they are collating all the information. People who either have gone missing or have passed away, and the damage that has been caused to their households, and the damage caused to roads and to bridges. So all that is being collated. And once it is collated, it will be properly analyzed. And as you know, the Premier does believe in transparency. All that will be made transparent and will be announced to everyone. The devastation is not only here in Mopani, it also extends to the Vembe district, and this whole Limpopo area has been badly affected. And we are told that we can expect more rains into the coming days. And this is the effects of climate change. Climate change is truly, truly with us, and those who don't believe that there's climate change better believe it now, because wiping out of 36 houses when there's a rain has never really been something we've experienced. Now, all those households, all those people and the families are now stranded, and they now have to pick up the pieces of their lives. Thank you very much.
Thank you, colleagues.
Was President Cyril Ramaphosa there speaking to us about the damage, and that has been caused by heavy downpours in many parts of the Limpopo province. And of course, he hasn't really confirmed the number of fatalities at this particular moment, saying that the provincial government will come together as different departments and put the numbers together, and that is when they will then release a more detailed report that will give us figures of how many people have died in different municipalities that have affected. So far, we only know of one person, and that is a 5-year-old girl that has been washed away by floods, particularly where we are in Giyani, Oli. So that's how the situation is looking like. It looks like the president is leaving, although people had hoped that he will do, some walkabout, interact with them and get to speak to the affected residents and find out what kind of assistance do they need at this particular moment. But he did mention that teams are on the ground to assist those that have been affected. There were those that were kept at a school as a form of shelter. They have now been accommodated by their relatives during this time. And of course, they will come, back with more details on what is going to happen. But, people have been warned that, climate change is a real thing, and they should anticipate, these kind of devastating floods or, weathers that affect communities. 36 houses have been washed away here in Giyani, and we know that in the Vembe district as well, there are also, areas that have been affected. We await those statistics, Oli, so that one can get to be able to assess the extent of the damage that has been caused by floods here in the Limpopo province.
As we taper down, Zola Sholwana, having listened to the president and some of the material I've been reading suggesting that the president is going to be visiting the homes of those who've lost loved ones, and indeed it does appear that that is the way that he is conducting this, affecting or visiting affected families, and then he is also going to visit those who've lost homes, and he's already given us the detail in that regard. 36 homes, as you've been saying, wiped out, and he also is going to be visiting some affected businesses. What are you hearing from your end in terms of how he is conducting this particular inspection, if you want to call it that?
Well, Oli, that was the initial plan according to the communication that we received as the media a little bit earlier on. But due to the weather, some of the plans might not be able to be executed, as the president might have to leave at this particular moment. So the plan was that he's going to come here and, of course, visit the affected families, get to engage with them and understand what kind of help do they need, what have they lost, and also do they have, a roof over their heads at this particular moment. But as the situation is looking like, it looks like he is leaving this particular community, and it's quite possible that he could be going to other parts of, other districts that have been affected. But what I do know, and I can confirm, is that he will not be able to, see some of these families that are affected in this particular village due to weather conditions. We heard that from the spokesperson confirming that we can only ask the president a few questions as he has to leave due to the weather.
Zola Sholwana, thank you very much indeed, and let's let you try and gather as much information as you possibly can. And just to quickly round off some of what the president had to say there, that they started in the Vembe district, the people there losing their possessions. In Mopane district, this is where he is living from right now, 36 homes wiped out, and he says that people now are sheltering somewhere, and I think he said in a school, 85 households basically without shelter. And one of the saddest news, as he said, was a 5-year-old who has passed away as a direct result of the floods. And he continues to say this is devastating. And what he did say, though, which I think he's trying to tell us that the way that communities and the institutions of government are responding to climate change. All right, let's listen to this now.
And then they activated the office of the president to come. We hope that he came here will get all the necessary attention to fix all our community problems, because there are quite a number of things here which are not done right. And then we hope that this now will be the beginning of the good things to come.
Yes. Many residents, especially those that do not have shelter tonight, feel like government took time to respond to their crisis compared to other parts of South Africa that have experienced floods before.
Look, when people are in a situation, they are likely to say all those sort of things. I'm one of the biggest critics of government, but in this situation, I'm quite impressed. We have activated, I'm one of the community leaders here who has assumed the role of speaking on behalf of my traditional castle, K.E. Mabunda. We have mobilized the community to say, let the community open the churches, the schools and everything to take care of our community. We do know that the government has to respond, but some of these things, it's some of us who have to assume and take a stance in order to solve this. I mean, the president has to start somewhere. Unfortunately, we are at the far end. So yes, I criticize the government, but in this point, I mean, I spoke to the MEC at around 8 o'clock, but his response time is quite impressive. I hope they can improve and do better.
Let's take it back to what you said about this situation being avoided. Earlier on, when I started speaking to you, you said this could have been avoided. What do you mean by that?
I'm going to be in trouble for this, but it could have been avoided if we were not oppressed. We are oppressed by a young chief called Peningobe, who is quite a greedy guy, who is oppressing the traditional leader of this village because of his thinking of his pockets. And then he's got power to stall the service delivery in this place. So our chief, the rightful chief of this place, K.E. Mabunda, is oppressed by him because of he's got a political power. If everything has been done right, we could have gotten the response in time. So that's what I was saying. I just didn't want to say it. Mara loko nila kusubula Changani, Songa, hosi ya hina ya tsikeleriwa, hi hosi yin'wana leyi nga nyikiwa matimba hi mfumo.
So do you think that that is preventing service delivery, like a proper drainage system that could assist residents during these kind of times?
Handle ko tiluma a hi kumi nchumu xa ku huma ka mfumo hikuva ku na hosi leyi nga na matimba ofisini ya MEC leyi siveletaka leyi nga referee na player. Game reserve and if we were receiving the rightful service delivery like any other community, this could have been prevented.
Thank you very much for your time.
Absolute pleasure. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. Thank you for your time, sir. That is a concerned resident there raising some of the issues that they have in this particular area, saying that, this could have been avoided early. Service delivery wouldn't have delayed in this area. Perhaps there would have been, drainage systems to assist when, there's heavy downpours in this area. And many residents actually said they came here because it's quite hot, so they never really experienced heavy downpours, so they never anticipated that, there could be floods of this magnitude. But, years later, they find themselves in the situation without homes, shelters at this particular moment. 36 homes have been washed away. And, we're talking about, families here that have children that have to go to school on Monday should the weather improve, meaning that those children might have a challenge in terms of going back to school. So there's a lot of damage, really. But, of course, the provincial government will then combine their figures from various districts and municipalities that have been affected by the rainfall and give us a more detailed report so that we are able to see, how was the impact of the floods and what is going to be done, to repair the damage that has been caused. A lot of infrastructure damage that we saw, Xoli, where, roads have been washed off, low-lying bridges have collapsed, disconnecting villages, from economic activity and isolating them really from the rest of the world. But we will continue, monitoring the weather as we can see that it looks like, it might rain any time from this particular moment. And we'll also get to be interacting with people on how they are dealing with the aftermath of the floods.
Zola Sholwana live for us there in Giyani. It's in the Mopani district, and very, very interesting comment from the resident she was speaking to there, bringing a slightly different dimension. Half the time, government is blamed for the lack of services or bulk water services like the drainage systems. And so he is blaming someone whom he refers to as a young chief who seems to be blocking such projects from coming to that village. And that really brings a completely different complexion now to this. But as I was trying to say earlier, that the president sounding upbeat about the response, not only of government, but that of communities, really lauding them for pulling together in a time of crisis. He says our response times are getting better and better, but there's no doubt in his mind that this is part and parcel of climate change. We're going to leave that there.